Welcome, friends. It's Miss Gisa, and today I have two special guests, author Katherine Williamson and illustrator Emily Bettridge. Hi.
Hey, hello.
We are so excited to have you talk about your book, The Mother of Monterey Canyon. Congratulations on writing your first book and running a successful Kickstarter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for having us.
Oh, thanks for being here. And it's impressive because you also published this book. So quite an accomplishment. And I'm really excited to share it with the kids.
Yes, thank you.
It was quite the journey.
Well, before we get into the book and the story, I just wondered, how did you two meet?
Well, I'll go. So our families kind of knew each other in a roundabout way, but we really started to become a little bit tighter when our two oldest boys became and are really good friends. And Kate and I, we just have a lot of the same interests, and I guess it was around quarantine when we thought maybe we should just do a book together. So, yeah.
Awesome. And you ladies are both from Colorado, which is pretty landlocked. Yet the book takes place off the coast of California in Monterey Canyon. I was wondering, what inspired you to write the story?
Well, actually, I heard the podcast on Radiolab, and they call the octopus Octomom in that story. And I was actually on my way for a camping trip with my family, and I was listening to this podcast, and it was just such an amazing story. And I was kind of thinking to myself, like, somebody should write this into a children's book. This would be a great story for kids. And then later on that summer is when Emily was wondering about if anybody wanted to write a children's book because she would like to illustrate a children's book. And I was just like, me.
Serendipitous.
Right? Yeah.
So it's like, I guess I should probably write this story that I think somebody else should write. And so.
Who better, right?
Right?
Can you summarize the story of the Mother of Monterey Canyon?
Yes, absolutely. And from the podcast, there's a lot of things that I didn't add into the story. We kind of left out all the scientists from the story.
Okay.
And so in the podcast, there's a lot more that the scientists even bring in from kind of their perspective. But we wanted it just to focus on her. Mm-hmm. So she's a deep sea octopus. And so that variety they knew was there and they've known for a long time, but apparently they've never really been able to do a lot of observations of them because they are so deep. Mm-hmm. So these scientists at the Monterey Bay Research Institute, they have a submersible. So it's kind of like a remote control car that they drive down into the depths of the ocean to observe things really far down. So the scientists aren't down there, they're just recording it. And so I thought that was really cool.
Okay.
And so they just were down there watching something else and they saw her, and she has a scar on her body, a crescent-shaped moon scar. And so the next time they came down, they saw that she was still on those rocks that they saw her on, but she had eggs. So they're like, well, we know it's the same one. So they just kept coming down once a month and observing her to see how long she was going to be on her eggs. And it was the first time they'd ever known how long because they knew when she got there about.
Right.
And so they saw her with crabs one day and there was like, oh gosh, she's done. Like these crabs are going to just get her.
Yeah.
And then they went back up. They didn't even like stay to watch what happened. They just were like, oh, well, I guess we need to go do our next thing. And then when they came down the next time, there were pieces of crab all around. So they knew that she had won the fight.
Yeah, she was still there.
Yeah, she was still there and she was doing fine. Apparently they were worried about her not getting enough food, so they would actually use the submersible to break off crab legs and like try and give them to her, and she didn't want anything to do with it. And she was like, I got this, guys. I know what to do. I have to
don't mess with nature.
Yeah. And the scientist, Dr. Robinson, he even talks about how like he would think of her when he was going through the grocery store and stuff, like, oh gosh, she's still down there in that same spot. And he would kind of worry about her and things like that. And then when they went down the last time and there was only the egg sacs attached to the rocks and they saw some of her species of the little hatchlings there, they kind of had that feeling of loss, like she's gone, but also that feeling of like, oh, she's done with this huge journey. And
successfully.
Yes,
done.
very successfully. She got these eggs to hatch. So
I was shocked at how long that process takes.
Yeah.
And I
she doesn't move. She's just right there the whole time.
And one of my favorite illustrations in the book is when you show the octopus and the picture is in the quadrants. And you show what's happening, you know, to the octopus.
Yeah,
it looks different as time goes on. I thought that was a magnificent way of showing that.
Well, thank you. It's funny because that was kind of a last minute edit. We had discussed how can we make a child kind of conceptualize what does that long mean? What does 4 years mean? And so our first thought was we were going to have a little kiddo with 4 birthdays. So, a baby at the 1-year-old all the way up to 2, 3, and 4. And it was a fun concept, but it was such a divergence from the rest of the style of the book that we kind of last minute were like, let's try again. So I'm glad that you like that one because it almost wasn't to be.
I love it. And I actually think that this is so much more powerful than showing, because it does kind of take away from the octopus then, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, thank you.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yeah. In the radio lab, they talk about all the huge world events that are happening over this period of time. And so I was like, do I bring that up somehow? I was like, no, because kids reading this aren't going to have any attachment to those big events that were happening. So I was like, no, let's just focus on her.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah. And what, just like human moms, like what a sacrifice, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think this is such a great children's book, but I think if anyone's looking for a great Mother's Day present, I really think this book, like I just kept thinking about that, just being
Well, thank you. Yeah, we think maybe it's a cautionary tale for moms.
Be careful.
Like, get up, go get yourself some crab. Don't give it all.
Emily, you're illustrating scenes from a very dark part of the ocean. How did your color choices reflect the environment, but also the mood you were trying to set for the reader?
Yeah, well, that was a challenge because really when you do, I looked at a lot of the video footage from the Research Institute, and it is basically just a little spotlight, which really makes everything kind of washed out with a lot of darkness around it. So that's really not as interesting as you'd want a children's book to be. So that very first page, I used a lot of black ink, a lot of deep blue ink, and just tried to make it super moody and kind of mysterious to grab our reader. But then I was like, okay, let's show maybe what the whole landscape would look like and, some what else lives down there with her. And but it was a lot of just kind of trial and error where I would try something out and I'd go, oh, don't like it and ditch it. The other challenge of illustrating this book was that octopus faces are not the most endearing, and some might even think they're a little frightening. So I definitely wanted her to be endearing to our audience, but I didn't want to dumb her down or talk down to kids and have big goofy eyes. It's like, I want this to be realistic, but they're a little alien-esque. Like they're not the most cuddly creatures. So I think that was probably the hardest part, was to make her endearing without dumbing it down, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I that's interesting that the scientists shared the footage with you. I love that.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. You can just go and see it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really incredible.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to do that. Kate, how long did it take you to research the octopus and just, the habitat and the whole life cycle that this particular species goes through for the book?
Well, a lot of it was included right there on the Radiolab.
Okay.
And then I just kind of followed to the Research Institute, and they have it all kind of typed out in articles and journal articles right there. So I was able to do a lot that way. My kids thought I was crazy. That's surprising. Because while I was writing, I would play the sounds of the deep ocean. I found some playlists of what does the ocean even sound like at that level. And so I would play sounds of the deep ocean so I could kind of be like, okay, this is what she would be hearing.
Yes.
And so, yeah, my kids are like, what are you listening to, Mom? And I was just like, I'm trying to be an octopus right now.
Like, I need to octopus.
Figure this out. But yeah, we would, just looking at a lot of articles, following if there's this species here, then going and finding articles to read about that specific species so that we were trying to be as accurate as we could.
That's great. I love that in the back of the book, you included ways that children and families could help the planet. I thought that was a really nice way to tie in, just respecting the ocean and the creatures that live there, and some tangible things that kids can actually do to help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we love that part too. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we want to really focus on ones in the future too, is really that coming back to nature and how important it really is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and empowering our community and, children, especially, just empowering them to know that they can make a difference, and the little things that they do every day makes a big difference. So, it's that kind of ripple effect that if you turn off the lights, it might not feel like a lot that you're doing, but it can accumulate and make a big difference.
And if everyone takes those small steps, right,
yes,
it really is huge.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Was there any part of creating this book that was, challenging for you or made you step out of your comfort zone?
All of it.
The whole thing.
All of it. Yeah, I mean, so Kate did the ISBN stuff and the copyright. We set up an LLC for our publishing company. So there was all that kind of logistical stuff that was like, adult homework kind of. And then it was like, I learned InDesign it's an Adobe program, which I'd never worked with Adobe programs before. So I laid out the whole book in InDesign and grew a lot in that experience. But I also have like my cousin who does graphic design. I would call him a lot and just say, my picture disappeared. Like, what did I do wrong? So we definitely had a great structure of support beneath us. So we grew a lot this last couple of years.
Yeah. Just having my work edited. As a teacher, I've edited a lot of papers. But then, it's like going back to college and being like, oh yeah, this is how it feels when you put this effort in, and then somebody's like, did you think about this? It's like, oh yeah, that would have been a lot better.
It'll really make you sensitive to, right, when you're teaching and editing.
Yeah. How do I word this? Because our editor was amazing. She was actually my middle school English teacher, and I kept in contact with her. She's really good friends with my parents, and we do yoga together on a regular basis.
Oh, wonderful.
And so I was like, so would you be able to edit this? And she's just,
she's
very positive, but she really looked at it very carefully and made a lot of great feedback. So I think I grew a lot in that writing process for sure.
Mhm.
And when I'm teaching writing now, it's like, you guys, this part's really important. Like, writers actually do this.
It's interesting how having gone through this process, like, makes you an even better teacher.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I definitely spend more time in the planning process with my kids with writing now than I did in the past. Usually I would kind of just skim over that and it's like, and now let's write, let's draft. And now it's like, no, let's really make sure our plan is ready before we start drafting, or you might get lost in the middle of your story.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, there was a couple times when I was first starting, I was like, oh yeah, I don't know where I'm going. I need to make sure I go back to my plan and look at this again. So.
And you teach little first graders, right?
Little first graders. So their stories aren't very long, but they get there. They have a lot of ideas in their head though.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk to you about the Kickstarter, because I've heard that using Kickstarter as a fundraising method takes an enormous amount of legwork, and to get your message out. Was that your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had started to build a little bit of a social media following. So that was kind of a really good base step, that we were able to share the Kickstarter through that, and really try to get the buzz going. We both have amazing families and friends who just showed up for us. You know, it's like, oh, I don't have any kids, but I'm going to order 3 books. And you're like, okay, thank you.
And the school and stuff, like her kids go to the school that I teach at. So when I was like promoting it, so many of our backers were my students' parents. And so that felt so good. It was like very humbling too. We had some that even just donated money and didn't get books. And they're like, well, we'll order another book later. We just want to make sure all this money goes towards getting it printed. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys are so sweet.
Yeah.
So we have a very supportive community.
And then also when we were deciding whether to do the Kickstarter or not, because we're like, well, we could probably pool funds and get this book printed just that way. And then I had another cousin who does some Kickstarters himself, and he was like, it's marketing. Like, you get to see if people are actually interested in this book before you put those funds in. So it was good to see if there was an interest level for a children's nonfiction about an octopus. Like, who knows? But yeah,
there is. You know, I'm a teacher too, and I have many kids that love octopus. I mean, yes. One child last year in particular was just obsessed, and I believe I passed on your Kickstarter, and I believe everyone.
Awesome. It does seem to be in like the collective right now. Like there was that My Octopus Teacher, and what was that book that
The Soul of an Octopus?
The Soul of an Octopus.
I don't know that one.
It's a chapter book. It's an adult nonfiction,
but she is a researcher, and she actually goes to all these different aquariums and spends time with octopuses and talks about more of like their emotions and their behaviors that way, and how they prefer other people over some others and things like that, and how they react differently to different people.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds fascinating.
It's a really good one. I like her a lot. Like I don't know how to pronounce her first name. It's just S-Y Montgomery.
Okay, I'll check her out.
But I do think it's just in the air, you know, like we just are getting really interested in things that maybe don't look like us, but have their own sense of sentient being and intelligence and things like that. So yeah, I fell in love with octopus.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any advice for young students, or maybe adults who may want to write and or illustrate their own books?
I think just do it.
Yeah, get out there and do it. Be brave.
Be brave. Yeah, that's such a good. Yeah, totally. And just really commit time to your project. And I think that's what was a really great benefit for us, is that we would set deadlines. I would be beholden to those deadlines to get this project, this page done. And I think if it was just my little project that I was working on, it might be a decades long thing.
You guys held each other accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think if you have an accountability partner, that probably helps out a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, just start, just go.
Okay. Now, what is your next book going to be about, or when is it coming out? Is it, unless it's a secret, which
it's not a secret.
Okay.
We have a lot of little things started and ideas, and it's more fine tuning them to see which one do we really want to spend a lot of time on. We've thought about doing one that's more habitats in your own backyard, to try and bring that right to where kids are, to really get them invested into nature, that you don't have to travel all the way to California. You don't have to go into the depths of the ocean. Nature is right there, and that we are actually nature ourselves. We are part of it. We aren't disconnected from it. So that's one of our ideas there. And then we were just talking about like a migration book, maybe doing a story of something that migrates, like a bird or something like that, and follow that migration.
Yeah, but I think, and I don't know, I'm going to speak for you right now, but I think we want to do a whole series of these where we follow the format of the octopus book, where it's a narrative, it's engaging, but it's a true story. And then in that book, there's a lot of little factoids and infographics that bring the story into this world, kind of a thing. So I think Kate and I we'll have a whole series for you.
That would be fabulous. I love science and I love nature, and I really like I always do that too. Did you know? I saw it in your book and I was like, oh my gosh, I do that all the time.
That's so great.
Yeah. So if you hear any inspirational stories about animals, just send it our way.
Okay. Yeah, to the whole community too. Yeah. I mean, we really do need that one story that sparks the whole book. So that's kind of what we're on a mission for right now.
All right, kiddos, you heard it. If you have any ideas and you want something written about your favorite animal or habitat, let our friends know here.
Yep.
All right.
And gosh, somebody needs to write a book.
Yeah.
Our families need to know, where can they purchase a copy of this? It's such a gorgeous book. I have to tell you, like, I love the feel of it and the colors. It's whoever printed this did a really good job. So where can everyone find your book?
Okay. So we have a website. It's KE Collaborative. So Kate and M Collaborative.com. And there's a place there that you can purchase the book. And then we're also looking to get our books into independent booksellers. So right now we have some in Colorado that are carrying the book, but if you don't happen to live in Colorado, you can get it through our website.
Okay, great. And I will list the website below so that families have it if they need it. And I hope to be purchasing another book soon, and to have you all on again to speak about your next book.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we look forward to it.
This is the most fun interview that I've ever had.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Well, thank you for being here with us today, and we'll see you again soon. And everyone, join us again soon. You can listen to the Mother of Monterey Canyon's read aloud that I have up today as well. And be sure to grab a copy because the illustrations are gorgeous. We'll see you again soon.
Hey, thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to like and subscribe to support our channel.